Okay, here is another naughty little Näcmetdinov game, played in Kazan again, 1946. You'll notice a lot of Näcmetdinov games are played in Kazan. That's because I think he wasn't allowed out of to explore other countries that much. When he did, I think he came second in the major tournament. But in the Kazan Championship, I think he was excelling and producing some nice miniatures, which also count as kind of opening traps as well. So this is a double whammy. Is this an opening trap we're looking at, or a normal game? Okay, so what happened? Näcmetdinov kicked off with e4, and the opponent went in for the sharp Sicilian dragon variation. So cd knight d4, and after knight c3 g6. Now I guess a lot of us today would be playing the Yugoslav attack with f3 and bishop e3 and all of that, tons of theory, but there is another dangerous line. Just f4. If black slips up, this can go disastrously wrong, and possibly I think black's recommended move here is knight c6, just to put an eye on e5 to make e5 less effective. Okay, and a variation you could imagine is like this: e5. Even if the queens come off, it's no big deal. Knight d5, and I don't think black has too much to worry about here. This pawn is a bit weakened, and it should be okay. But in the game after f4, black just played bishop g7, not really worrying too much. However, now there came e5, and black's play is fairly disastrous, but it's kind of pretty how it ends. Black took on e5, and after f he played knight d5. Now let's quickly examine this position. It looks fairly grim for black even after knight g4, because you can imagine bishop b5 check, and here if bishop d7, then it looks to be queen takes g4, just winning a piece because of that pin. So that's not particularly great. So also not particularly pleasant looking is knight c6, just offering the exchange after this, because if king f8 here, then queen takes d8 is mate, as well as winning the queen, and if bishop d7, it looks as though white is just winning that rook, winning the exchange. Although black might have some compensation here for the exchange, it's still better for white. Okay, but in the game the opponent just played the disastrous knight d5, and now things are in real problems after bishop b5 check. There wouldn't just be the exchange sack after knight c6, it would just be losing a whole piece back on d5 if knight c6 took bishop c6 and then just taking on d5. So king f8 was played, and now Nezhmet just castled here. So he's eyeing that f7. He's created an embarrassing possibility of knight e6 as well. So say knight d7 as knight e6, just winning the queen. And also, you know, the king's safety has been shot to pieces basically, but black is also keen to gain material from this position, and now plays bishop takes e5. So Nezhmet goes in for the kill. He plays check. After king g8, he actually just takes on d5, because there's a very nice tactical idea coming up here. It looks as though, is this a bit silly? Well, first of all, bishop d4, queen d4 would be eyeing g7, so that wouldn't be good, and also black would just be losing a piece. So bishop d4 is a terrible move because it would protect the knight on d5 as well. So black's next move is basically force queen d5. But here I wonder if you can spot quite a crushing move if I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, the queen is not protected, and this next move exploits that vulnerability, as well as this lack of heir for the king. Knight e7 will be threatening mate, so queen d1, knight e7 mate. So black threw in a check to try and defend both the d8 and e7 square with this check, so that after bishop e3 the black queen would go to c7. So it's got a basis for it, protecting these two squares. Unfortunately, the knight on f5 didn't just do that. It now supports knight h6, and there'll be a mate to follow. Wherever the king goes, king f8 will be rook f7 mate, king g7, rook f7 mate. So that's mate, because the king is actually cut off from e8 as well. So it's quite unfortunate, really, the whole game. But if you're playing against a dragon player, maybe this is a game to remember. Maybe you've got a club game coming up and someone plays a Sicilian dragon. This is, possibly a dangerous line. This f4, maybe we should use it as a surprise weapon now and again, especially if black's going to slip up like this with totally disastrous consequences after check, and then this knight f5. It's really using a lot of tactical elements in position. The massive lead in development also helps, of course. So that's a quick win there. Apparently the whole game has been played in this Girls' Championship, someone was saying on chessgames.com, but after the check, apparently King H1 was played, and King H1 and then Queen C7 requires a bit more ingenuity here. And the chessgames.com commentator, I think, has got it wrong, that the ingenuity was Queen D7. That doesn't really do the job here. Queen D7 trying to sort of block for E7, because black can just take with the queen, not do anything clever, and knight C6 and black will be fine. However, even in this position, okay, I think there is the crushing move found with Rybka, bishop D7, just to try and block the C7 queen from E7 to threaten knight E7 mate. And now knight C6, say, to protect E7, knight sack, and now a rook sack. Rook takes f7, and this threatens immediately rook f8 mate. So say black tries to defend that with bishop takes d7. Now rook takes e7. Now introduces queen d5 mating. So say black tries to defend that with queen c6. After rook takes e5, white has got a crushing advantage here. So that would be a way to play with a less optimal move after the check. If king h1, queen c7, it's still kind of crushing. But in the game, this is the most incisive and crushing move. Just bishop e3, not minding giving apparently the king some leeway on the dark squares. But this is just mating knight h6. That's why that's so elegant. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.